The giant laughs, and the sound rolls through the valley like thunder. David runs toward him. He doesn't flee. He doesn't hesitate. He runs. While thousands of trained soldiers stand frozen in fear, a small shepherd advances. He asks,
"Who is this uncircumcised Philistine?"
There's no rehearsed battle cry, only the name of the giant shouted,
"Goliath!"
One shout, one word, a meaning as massive as the man himself. The Philistine giant had finally found an opponent worthy of him, even though he was far smaller. David did not design a war strategy. He used his skill with the sling, the weapon he handled best, the one he used to protect his sheep. He simply moved forward, a courageous step. He ran toward death, no armor, no sword, protected only by his faith, his warrior spirit, and his experience defending his flock from wild animals. Thousands of men from both armies fall, completely silent. No one seems to believe what they are seeing. The stone spins in the sling, slicing through the air. In a matter of seconds, what seemed impossible is about to happen. Time appears to stop. No one there understands how this moment even came to be. Before all this, that valley had already been ruled by fear for 40 days. Every morning began the same way. Heavy footsteps, metal clashing, a voice challenging Israel at sunrise. Goliath did not attack. He waited. He waited for fear to repeat itself until it became truth. He waited for armed men to forget who they were and whom they claimed to trust. Constant fear reshapes the mind. After weeks of hearing the same challenge, the soldiers no longer thought about victory, only survival. Goliath became an absolute reality. He did not need to fight. He only needed to appear, only needed to speak. An entire army defeated without battle, corroded from within day after day, because when hope dies, the war ends before the first sword is ever raised. During those 40 days, King Saul watched everything without acting. He was the tallest man in Israel, experienced in war, chosen to lead the people. Yet he remained still. To break the fear, Saul promised his daughter in marriage, riches, and exemption from taxes to anyone who would face Goliath. Nothing worked. Fear does not negotiate. No reward convinces someone who already imagines himself dead before the fight even begins. If this message is already stirring something inside you, understand this. Spiritual growth does not happen in isolation. In the description, you'll find the ebook, How to Use the Bible the Best Way, and the Bibles I recommend for those who truly want to go deeper into the Word. Subscribe to the channel and continue this journey with us. Long roads are walked better together. The daily challenge did more than destroy courage. It eroded Israel's spiritual identity. Little by little, the people began to accept the enemy's dominance as inevitable. When fear repeats long enough, it starts to sound reasonable. The soldiers no longer asked where God was, only when it would end. Waiting became an invisible prison. An entire armed army surrendered inside without strength to react. Meanwhile, far from the valley, David lived a simple routine in the hills of Bethlehem. He cared for his father's sheep, facing heat, cold, and loneliness. There were no applause or recognition there, only daily responsibility. Sheep depend entirely on their shepherd. That work taught vigilance, patience, and commitment. Without realizing it, David was learning to stand firm when everything around him demanded escape. Caring for sheep also meant facing real danger. Lions and bears appeared without warning, and any hesitation cost lives. When a predator attacked, David ran. He did not calculate odds. He protected what had been entrusted to him. He came out wounded many times, but never abandoned a sheep. Each confrontation strengthened something within him. His confidence did not come from physical strength, but from the certainty that God was present in every deliverance. These battles were never seen by crowds. They were recorded in scars and quiet experience. His brothers trained for visible wars. He fought hidden ones. In his family's eyes, he was just the youngest. In God's eyes, he was being shaped, because before placing someone before a public giant, God works on that person's heart in private struggles, far from applause and human attention. One day, Jesse asked David to take food to his brothers at the camp. It was a simple task, seemingly insignificant. As he approached the valley, David sensed something strange in the atmosphere. Armed men spoke in low voices, avoiding looking ahead. The air felt heavy. It was not just exhaustion, it was accumulated fear. Israel did not look like the people he had heard about in stories of the God of armies. When Goliath appeared again, David saw something that disturbed him. Experienced warriors stepped back. Swords dropped to the ground. The challenge echoed and no one responded. He asked what would happen to the man who defeated the giant and heard about rewards and honor. But that was not what troubled him most. What burned in his chest was another question. How could that man dare insult the living God without receiving an answer? David's indignation was not welcomed. His oldest brother accused him of arrogance and idle curiosity, telling him to go back home. But what moved David was not vanity, it was conviction. For him, the confrontation was not merely physical, but spiritual. He did not see Goliath as invincible. He saw him as someone who had crossed a line, and that perception completely changed the meaning of the battle. David's words reached Saul, and the young man was brought before the king. The contrast between them was obvious. One wore a crown, the other wore simplicity. Saul saw a boy. David saw an opportunity to defend God's name. He spoke of lions and bears, not to exalt himself, but to explain that God had already delivered him before. David's confidence did not come from himself, but from the memory of past deliverances. Saul tried to dress David in his own armor, but it was too heavy. Every step was difficult. David realized he could not fight using what had never belonged to him. He removed the bronze, took his sling, and chose stones from the stream. There was no ritual, only decision. As he walked back toward the valley, David carried no visible protection. He carried something deeper, the certainty that God would fight for him. Perhaps you're realizing that faith is not built in public moments, but in silent processes. If you truly want to grow spiritually, in the description you'll find the ebook, How to Use the Bible the Best Way, and the Bibles I recommend for those who want to understand the Word clearly. Subscribe to the channel and stay with us. Spiritual growth is a journey, not an event. As he descended again into the valley, David did not walk like someone uncertain. Each step was firm, as if he knew exactly where he was placing his feet. The army watched in silence. Many thought they were about to witness a boy die. Others simply could not look. But David did not see thousands of eyes on him. He saw only the enemy ahead and the mission he needed to fulfill in that moment. Goliath noticed the movement and advanced, offended. His eyes scanned David from head to toe, searching for armor, sword, shield. He found none. Only a staff, a sling, and stones. Contempt turned into mockery. To the giant, it was a personal insult. He did not understand that he was not merely facing a boy, but someone who did not measure reality by the size of the enemy. Goliath's words echoed through the valley like a sentence. He cursed David, promised to destroy him and leave his body for the animals. His voice was designed to intimidate, to paralyze. But David did not answer with insults. He answered with conviction. He declared that he did not come in his own name, but in the name of the Lord of hosts. At that moment, the battle was no longer just between two men. When Goliath advanced, David ran. He did not defend himself, did not retreat, did not wait. He ran toward the danger. The gesture was so unexpected, it confused both armies. While the giant lifted his heavy weapon, David was already spinning the sling. Each step shortened the distance. Each second increased the tension. The valley seemed to hold its breath, as if it knew it was about to witness something decisive. The stones spun faster and faster, cutting through the air with a sharp sound. David adjusted his body, focused his eyes, and kept running. He did not aim at the armor or the shield. He aimed where few would notice. There was still no impact, No fall, just a suspended instant between faith and fear, life and death. A second carrying the weight of an entire nation, about to change history forever. The entire valley seems to shrink. The giant advances confidently, raising his heavy weapon. David feels the weight of the moment but does not slow down. He runs. The sling spins once more, his body aligns, his gaze locks onto the only exposed point. No rush, no panic, only precision. The sharp sound of the stone slicing the air rises. The final instant arrives. There is no turning back. The motion has begun. The impact happens too quickly to comprehend. A dull crack cuts through the valley. The giant freezes in place. The laughter disappears. His eyes lose focus. For a strange second, he remains standing, as if his body does not yet know that it is over. Then gravity wins. Goliath falls. The ground trembles with the impact. The silence that follows is absolute. No one shouts. No one moves. The impossible has just happened. David does not celebrate. He does not raise his arms. He runs to the fallen body. The work is not finished. The giant's sword lies there, enormous, too heavy for ordinary hands. David grips it with effort, one strike, then another. With the giant's head in his hands, everyone finally understands what has happened. The man who terrorized an entire army is defeated. The threat that paralyzed Israel for 40 days ended in seconds. The effect is immediate. Fear changes sides. The Philistines realize it first. Their champion has fallen. The certainty that sustained them disappears. Panic spreads. They run. Israel awakens. Men who were paralyzed hours earlier now advance shouting. The pursuit crosses the valley and continues along the roads. The sound that was once mockery becomes retreat. A battle that never truly began ends in complete reversal. When everything calms down, David remains in the valley, breathless, covered in dust and blood. The shepherd does not look like a hero. He looks like someone who survived. Silence returns, but now it is different. Not fear, astonishment. Everyone stares at him, trying to understand what they have just witnessed. The question is no longer who Goliath is. The question now is this: who is this young man who changed the fate of an entire nation? The army of Israel crosses the valley as if awakening from a trance. Men who trembled hours earlier now run, shout, pursue. The courage that was missing suddenly appears, fueled by the fall of the giant. One man's victory changes the behavior of thousands. The fear that bound them breaks. What seemed impossible minutes before now feels inevitable. The valley, once ruled by silence, fills with footsteps, voices, and restrained fury. David does not run with the others. He watches. He's still trying to grasp the weight of what just happened. His body trembles, not from fear, but from release. His heart pounds. The moment passes too quickly. Officers approach. Questions arise. Who are you? Where do you come from? The young man answers simply. No grand speech. Just a name, a family, an ordinary origin. But nothing in that valley feels ordinary anymore. The news spreads rapidly. The giant has fallen. David's name moves among the soldiers like dry fire. Some recount the scene, others exaggerate it. Each version grows slightly larger. The feat becomes legend before sunset. The boy no one noticed becomes an unavoidable topic. History has begun to change hands, and the valley, silent witness, holds the exact moment when everything turned. When the dust settles, reality slowly returns. The war continues, but something has changed forever. A new name now occupies the space where fear once lived. David does not yet understand, but that day pulled him out of anonymity. The field that formed the shepherd now presents him to the world. No plan was drawn, no ambition declared, just a step taken at the right moment, and the path opened. Stories like this cross generations because they speak of something deeper, not just strength, but decision. Not just courage, but willingness to act when everyone else retreats. The valley does not remember every soldier who ran that day, but it remembers who advanced when it seemed foolish to do so. And perhaps that is why this scene still echoes, because it quietly asks what each of us would have done there. In the days that follow, David's name travels beyond the valley. Songs begin to rise, repeated in villages and cities. Stories gain rhythm, simple verses easy to remember. The feat becomes more than military, it becomes cultural. The people needed something to sing after so much fear, and now they had it, a name, a face, a moment marking the end of a long season of humiliation. If this message is speaking to you, do not ignore it. Faith was never meant to be lived alone. In the description, you'll find the ebook, How to Use the Bible the Best Way, and the Bibles I recommend for those who want to understand the Word deeply. Subscribe to the channel and keep walking with us. Now let's finish this story to understand why this battle entered human history and is told from generation to generation. For Saul, the victory brought relief, but also unrest. The king watches David with growing attention. He sees more than a brave young man. He sees something he cannot define. David's presence unsettles him, not because of immediate threat, but because of contrast. A chosen leader who hesitated, a shepherd who advanced. The comparison is born without being spoken, and silent comparisons are often the most dangerous. David returns to simple tasks, at least for a while. He does not assume the posture of a hero. He does not demand space. He remains obedient. But something has already changed. The valley is behind him, yet the weight of what happened remains. Anonymity no longer shields him. Every glance now carries expectation. That day did not make him king, but it permanently removed him from where he once stood. After the valley, nothing returns to normal. The valley of Elah returns to silence. The giant's body no longer intimidates. Weapons are gathered. The field that for 40 days was ruled by fear now holds only marks in the ground and memories hard to erase. There, an army learned that fear can seem absolute until the moment someone decides to advance. The valley did not forget that day, because it was there that the impossible lost its authority. Stories like this endure because they point to something greater than one man. In the valley, one advanced when all retreated. One faced the enemy no one else could defeat. Centuries later, humanity would stand before a deeper valley, fear, guilt, and death. And once again, victory would not come through collective effort, but through the surrender of one. Just as David entered the valley representing a paralyzed people, Jesus entered the cross representing all humanity. He faced what no one could overcome and won a victory that does not depend on our strength. Today, the valley is not made of stone and dust, but it exists within every person. The final question is not whether you can face giants alone, but whether you trust the one who has already won for you. The valley is not the end. It is where hope begins. Continue with us by clicking on the next video appearing now. God bless you.